I started writing for this online political blog that we have in Sweden, which was like student led. And then after that, I just became more and more interested in it. And so I eventually took over the whole blog. And I sort of restructured the whole thing from an academic blog to a journalistic blog, where I would have to train the writers to sort of go away from their academic style of writing. My interest with the Middle East started like at a pretty early age when I was 12 and I read a book, and then ever since that I just been coming here and experiencing the culture, and when I came to university, I mean, it was like the natural choice for me. I mean, what am I going to become, a doctor or a lawyer, an engineer? No, I don't think so. So I ended up going with Middle Eastern studies in Arabic, so which ended me in Syria because I lived there. On a personal level, I mean, the team is huge. So far, we're like 60, 70 people, like that are only working on sort of web-related stuff. And it's team spirited and it's really nice. And everybody's sort of working towards it, but it's like it's an extremely high pace. So probably TweetDeck is I couldn't live without TweetDeck. But also hashtags and Google. I mean, I have to give it to Google. It makes my life a lot easier, especially when you know how to search on Google. Right. What not to do is not to mistake that bloggers are journalists, because the difference between journalists and bloggers, I'm not saying that bloggers, the information that bloggers put out there is not valuable, but that the difference between them and journalists is that journalists get fired for saying something that's not true, whilst bloggers don't. So applying the right amount of skepticism is always healthy. Following up always, and hashtagging and looking at the hashtags and going through that information is always, it's good. It gives you sort of an idea. It's like Twitter is like a big bulletin board. People put up small post-it notes of what's going on and sort of their opinions of that. But it's really hard to, if you just blindly trust. And I mean, you've seen that a lot in the media, like CNN just pushing out information. And you can see how at one point somebody tweeted something, and then suddenly it became something else. I think it was in ArabNet. There was in Beirut this year. There was somebody. Some of the panelists said that it was like 400 something thousand hits on Google or something like that, regarding to a topic which I can't remember. But then he was just like saying we're talking in that direction, whilst you could see within 10 minutes people were saying that this was an exact figure, and that's exactly what like is the problem with Twitter, is that you don't know when information has transformed itself into something else, and people are saying that as a fact. Journalists not often, but do use social media not as a source, but as to find leads for their stories. So, for example, in Bahrain, you'd have tweeters that would be tweeting about something else, and then that a journalist would go to those tweeters, and sort of talk to them about what's going on. So that's also a good, very surprising thing, that journalists don't use always social media as a source, but rather as a lead for their stories. So in a sense, social media is on that front empowering journalism a lot and sort of giving a whole different new perspective on it. Not to mention that, you know, journalists can link to different articles or different terms, and sort of before, I mean, when you had print journalism, you would just have that story and that would be it, and you would have a deadline and that would also be it. But now you sort of, it's so interactive, so you're not giving any more a story, but you're giving a web of different stories.